Teshamevanukampartham tha. Teshamevanukampartham actually. Aham jnanajam tamaha.
Aham jnanajam tamaha.
Nashayamyatma bhavastha.
Nashayamyatma bhavastha.
Jnanadipena bhasvata.
Jnanadipena bhasvata.
So read the English translation.
Through the Buddhi Yogi, what exactly
Wait,
does the
what happened
Lord
here?
provide for the
Out of
seeker?
mere compassion for them.
Oh, sorry. Out of mere compassion for them, I, dwelling within their hearts, destroy the darkness born of ignorance by the luminous lamp of knowledge.
So here he's saying that out of compassion for them. So पहले तो बुद्धि योगा दे दिया, फिर हम अपना जर्नी शुरू किया, हमारा विक्षेप और आवरण कम हो गया, और फिर the final thing he will do is that जो हमारा destroy darkness of ignorance which reside in my heart, he will destroy that darkness. Basically what he's saying that you already have that Atman sitting in your heart and then you will connect to it. So आवरण और विक्षेप खत्म हो जाएगा तो अपने आप ही वो luminous ho jayega. Yeah.
A thing existing in the outside world may sometimes be veiled from a perception because we need certain favorable conditions for its full perception. In order to hear a sound, the sound produced must have the necessary frequency and the sound waves must also reach the eardrum of the listener. Similarly, it is not sufficient that an object be in front of the eyes to give us the perception of it. It must be bathed in a beam of light, and only then can the eyes recognize it. If I am groping in the darkness for a key that is on my table and somebody switches the light on, I can say that he, with his kindly act, has brought me to the key. It is absurd to assume that the light has created the key.
So I want to just stop here for a minute. So he's having the analogy that it's not that कि कोई नई चीज create हो रही है. You know that prakash of knowledge is already there in us, but उसके ऊपर वो आवरण और विक्षेप हो गया है. So वो जब हट जाएगा तो so like the example he gave is the key is sitting and it's dark, I can't see it. So yeah, so okay, we got that. Yeah.
I used to have a book which had 3D in it, but if you look at it, it's 2D. So when you look like this, all of a sudden all these flowers appear.
Magic eye they used
So
to
that
call
is
it.
the way it happens.
Magic eye.
It exists, but then you don't see
And
it.
एक बार वो देख लो ना,
then
फिर
you-
फटाक से आ जाता
फिर
है.
हर बार दिखता है.
हाँ.
I had that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is amazing that whole thing.
It was a picture like that,
Yeah.
which had a sunken ship and some treasure.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, there was nothing.
Right.
Kind
Yeah.
of waves on it, and you had to look and focus,
Yeah.
and suddenly the ship
Yeah.
And
appeared.
like the
And the treasure and everything. And once you saw it, then every time
Yeah.
you saw it, but another person
New
आपके
person,
घर जो guest आया या
हाँ,
कोई
नहीं।
आया, उसको नहीं दिख रहा है. Till they would have to apply their mind and then focus, and suddenly it will either click or not click. कुछ लोगों को नहीं दिखता था.
And
और
that
मेरे
is
को
a-
टेक्निक जो बताई ना लोगों ने
हाँ.
कि एकदम जोर से भी मत घूरो उसको,
नाक टच करके ऊपर करो
उसको
उसको
काइंड ऑफ
gradually.
एक इन बिटवीन स्टेट में
Yeah.
अपने आप को रखो, लाइक अ रिलैक्स्ड.
अधमुखी आंखें.
हाँ, एकदम से ऐसे भी नहीं करो,
Half
दिखाई
closed
नहीं.
eyes.
Exactly. So that is a
Yeah.
state of samadhi also. If you think
Yeah.
about it, it's a very good analogy what you guys brought in. Because अगर बहुत ज्यादा concentrate करोगे, बहुत ज्यादा वो हो जाएगा, हाय दिख नहीं रहा है, कुछ नहीं दिखेगा.
तो नहीं दिखता था.
Your mind has to be
Yeah.
relaxed, and you have to almost not be looking for it, then it comes.
I think that's how it happened.
You see
the
what I'm
first
saying?
time.
When you have too
It's-
much anxiety of
Yeah.
तब नहीं आएगा.
It's like dream. I mean,
Ah.
you cannot force a dream.
Yeah.
It has to come by itself.
Yeah. So, that
So-
something, there are all these analogies if you
Yeah.
see, and that's what is true. Whoever has experienced that
Yeah.
pictures.
Force on the dream, you cannot force it to shut also.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean, it's not in your hands.
not in
It's
your
like,
So, go ahead.
okay.
Following this analogy, the self that already exists in us, now ducking, as it were, behind conditions not favorable for its cognition, gets unveiled when these unfavorable conditions are removed. This negative atmosphere is a bosom that screens the self is indicated here by the term the darkness born of ignorance. Even in the darkness of ignorance, remember, the self is abiding, only it is not available for an intimate, subjective experience. When the seekers who have established themselves in the above mentioned constant awareness of the Supreme master the Buddhi Yoga, they become fit for the final experience of their real identity with the self.
So how he's saying that it is like, firstly he's telling you what is that darkness of ignorance. It is that negative atmosphere in our bosom is called darkness of ignorance. And then he's saying that when Buddhi Yoga, you have it for a while, that's when you will get the final experience. It's just that it's already there and you will see it or you will connect or you will experience it. Nothing is coming from outside.
Earlier we mentioned that Buddhi Yoga amounts to the Samadhi experience, even though there is yet a thin film of egocentric experience of bliss. In this stanza we have a description of how from the
Savikalpa.
the seeker is transported unaware as though by the intervention of some divine grace into the consummate
Nirvikal
experience of the infinite. In fact, upon their savikalp alone is the realm of conscious self-effort, and even the Buddhi Yoga comes from above, meaning it comes from above, meaning it comes not as a result of any deliberate action, but is a spontaneous, partial revelation when the density of the mist between the ego and the self is
thinned out.
The final phase is the final phase experience when the mist of ignorance is completely lifted is self-revelation, which comes in its own light. A radium dial watch is kept on the table in a dark room. In the enveloping darkness, I am searching for the watch. As I remove the various papers and books that have accumulated on the table, suddenly I come to recognize by its own light the watch so earnestly sought. The self-effulgent truth, when hidden behind the fumes of ignorance, may for the time being appear as though non-existent. When the enveloping ignorance is removed, its own
effulgence
is sufficient to illumine it.
Okay, so basically what he's saying is that they always call this Brahman as a self-effulgent. Like the sun is supposed to be self-effulgent for us. So they say कि सब दुनिया में हर एक चीज को देखने के लिए हमें लाइट चाहिए, लेकिन सन को देखने के लिए कुछ नहीं चाहिए, because sun is self-effulgent. So that's what he means by it. And then he gave the example of that watch with his own light is sitting there but has a lot of coverings, and जैसे जैसे cover निकालते रहते वो अपने आप ही दिख जाएगी. So he's saying that the same exact thing happens with the final experience. And the two words he used, Savikalp and Nirvikalp Samadhi, I think maybe Joe has heard those terms.
Yeah, sure.
It's like when Samadhi में थोड़ा सा ego अभी भी रहता है और थोड़ा सा darkness अभी भी है, तो उसको Savikalp कहते हैं. अभी पता चल गया है मुझे, लेकिन मेरे को अभी final experience नहीं हुआ.
Nirvikalp is basically you lose your identity and you are merged.
Turiya state.
Turiya state,
Turiya.
That is Nirvikalp.
Nirvikalp Samadhi. So ये जितने भी लोग totally established है ना, वो लोग Nirvikalp Samadhi में actually. They may be functioning in the world and they do everything for lok kalyan, but they have no desire कि मेरे को ये मिल जाए वो मिल जाए, nothing. And sometimes because they are in their own body, so हम लोग उनको ऐसे देखेंगे तो बोलेंगे oh they look like us only, but actually they have already reached there, all those great saints and all sages. So that's what he's talking about.
Because वो रामकृष्णा की पिक्चर है ना जो इज मेडिटेटिंग, तो उसकी स्टोरी थी, वो उसमें आया था उसके बर्थडे पे. दे टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट दे इन दोज डेज you cannot take an iPhone, take a picture. You have to bring your equipment, big equipment. So they arranged for take his picture taken, and he said no, I don't want to take the picture. So Then they were going back disappointed. Then Vivekanand came. He said, "Let me talk to him." So he goes there and start discussing something with him. And all of a sudden he goes in this samadhi. And the photographer just tries to touch him, and his whole body moved because he was so stiff. So this picture actually has a little angle in it, That's a whole story of that. So that's how the picture was taken, That he was in cervical. And the other picture, which is he's standing up like that, same thing happened, Somebody there was singing something and he went in that samadhi. So these are there are only 3 pictures of his, 2 are those, and one of them he went to a studio where they took the picture.
Oh, you mean ज़्यादा उनके pictures नहीं है?
No, only 3 which are living pictures. The other are dead. When he was died, then they took.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Because those days the picture was big deal.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like
Yeah. आजकल तो सब
we're
अपना
talking
सेल फोन निकाल के
1886. Yeah.
1000 pictures. कोई मना भी कर देगा ना. I've seen places where they say no pictures taken.
Yeah.
तो चुप से निकाल के
yeah,
फट
sure.
करके ले लेते हैं. And then they feel so happy that I beat the system.
When the darkness of ignorance is destroyed by the luminous lamp of knowledge, the self stands revealed in its own glory as the one without a second, all pervading and all full. This act of self-revelation is undertaken and performed by the Lord, the Self, whoever abides in the heart of his very devotees, very own devotees, or very
Yeah,
devotees.
मतलब खुद ही के heart में
Yeah,
that
some
self
word
is
is missing. This kindly act of revealing the self is undertaken in a spirit of compassion, in fact, towards itself. When I am tired of walking, I sit on the roadside in my pilgrimage out of compassion for myself.
So here he's just saying that it's like the self has a compassion for itself only because हम लोग खुद ही है ना वो.
Yeah.
तो सोचे हाँ भाई इतना मेहनत कर लिया चलो अभी इसको
थोड़ा
फाइनल
relax
एक्सपीरियंस
करने.
दे ही दो. हाँ.
This compassion cannot be directly invoked unless the seeker pays the price for it. In daytime, when I open the windows of my room, the sunlight, out of compassion, illumines the room for me, and we know that the sunlight has neither the freedom to withdraw this compassion so long as the windows are open, nor has it the capacity to show its compassion before the windows are open. In short, the sunlight is invoked the moment the object which obstructs the sunlight is removed.
So here he's kind of trying to tell you, on one hand it says that it is compassion, but actually it is almost like the law, in a sense that if you make certain effort, the results are going to come, basically.
You
That's
don't
what
open
I'm
the
trying.
window, it's not going to.
Yeah, like somebody is
Like in the night,
complaining
yeah.
that oh I'm so dark, और वो sun तो बाहर है, वो
Get
पर्दा
up and
लगा के
open
बैठा हुआ है.
yeah.
So फिर अगर जैसे ही हमने पर्दा खोला, वो sunlight तो अब आएगी.
No,
So
but
that's,
what he said before, which is true, that वो पर्दा अपने आप खुलेगा. Once you start worshipping me, I'll open the door.
there are
and help
several
you.
ways of looking
It
at
is
it.
not possible for you to open yourself. Now, basically, this is the difference. Christ used to be a Jew. And then he went to India and he studied all that and came and he formed Christianity. So if you look at Christianity, Judaism and Hinduism, the only common thing which is between the two, which is different than Judaism, is that by the grace of God, everything happens. So this is exactly what he's
I
talking
know, but
about.
what I'm trying to tell you that
Whereas the 10 Commandments will not make you happen to see
Yeah.
God.
what he's saying
So-
is the एक तरफ से तो grace बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर तुम ये
Effort ही नहीं
करोगे तो
करोगे.
अपने आप ही हो जाएगा वो. That's what he's
नहीं,
saying.
but grace बोल रहे हैं, but what they're saying that grace could be coming not just from external God, but it's within you,
वो तो है ही.
which is what.
पर अगर एफर्ट भी नहीं करोगे, पर्दा ही नहीं खोलोगे,
Exactly.
तो लाइट
Isn't
भी
that you
कहाँ
have
से
to pay a
आएगी?
price for
But
it?
no, but
It come
he
within you to open the window.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
yes,
take
there
the
you
but
go.
he,
you know,
but
dark,
Open the
dark,
window
dark.
तो हमें करना पड़ेगा ना. So ये
but
all the
what he
effort
said was, if you worship me, I'll give you the buddhi to
to
open
open
the
the window. वो तो हमने देखा.
So
फिर.
otherwise
Exactly.
तुम्हें बुद्धि नहीं आएगी कि
Exactly. हाँ, कि कौन सी खिड़की खोलूं यही नहीं मालूम.
No, that's what buddhi
So
yoga
whatever
is.
we are doing, we are getting buddhi from up.
Yes.
Buddhi
You're
yoga.
right, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
The buddhi
If
yoga
you
is
start
that.
having interest in this subject, you
Yeah.
think of it as a grace of
Yeah,
God.
right, exactly.
Right? Otherwise, वो interest ही नहीं आएगा. You will run away from here. After a while, you start getting so bored. You know. So,
You'd
so
rather
I think
watch
everybody got it.
You otherwise the stock market, going up
Was it?
rather than
Yeah, yes,
down
yes.
here,
Because there's so many distraction in the world. You will always make some bahana and not come.
right.
You know. So that's what it is. That so we all kind of understood कि जब तक हम self effort नहीं करेंगे वो grace आएगा ही नहीं. And
नहीं वो
this
बुद्धि योग
analogy-
आएगा ना तो
हाँ?
करेंगे अपने आप एफर्ट आएगा
हाँ, मतलब अगर and I think to me the best example is when you see somebody trying so hard who has a little power does give you that अभी चलो कर रहा है इसको दे दो. You know. So out of compassion for myself only,
Right.
it will happen.
Similarly, when a seeker, through the above-mentioned processes, comes to deserve Buddhi Yoga and practices it diligently, he succeeds in removing from himself all the wells of ignorance, which are nothing but his own mental agitations caused by the cloudiness of his intellect. The self-effulgent self then spontaneously reveals itself in its own light. Lightning needs no other light to illumine it when it passes from one mass of clouds to the neighboring clouds. The instruction portion for the highest vocation in life with self-development and self-realization concludes here, and yet Arjuna is not satisfied and is raising his doubt here, requesting the Lord to help him gain a confirmation through actual experience.
So that is, he's talking about the next verse, but basically it's saying that now you got the whole thing. That he's saying that you come to deserve Buddhi Yoga and practice it diligently. So अगर तुमको ये subject में interest आ रहा है, then what your job is to continue it, and then one day you will get the final experience. So I thought this was, because we had so many different questions about it, so
Yeah.
it kind of clarified that what is the process, you know.